Hello, welcome back to Talk Seagulls, and it's been a couple of weeks. I'm sorry about that, but we are back in the Caxton Arms, and it's on the back of a very good one, actually, to be fair, to talk about. And we're with Toby again.
Yeah.
Toby,
always pleasure to be here.
Yeah, mate, it's nice to have you back down. It's nice to be back down as well, especially after Brighton have just beaten Manchester City.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very happy. One, because Brighton won, and two, because it does Liverpool a favour.
Yeah,
so very good week, and obviously glad to see you back. Obviously out for a couple of weeks of illness, but nice to be back here.
Couple of weeks out, mate, don't matter. We're back in business now. But yeah, Liverpool, mate, to be fair, Arne Slott's doing a decent job, isn't he?
No, very well. Yeah, I think it's been a very good couple of weeks. Obviously, Arsenal have dropped points, City have dropped points. We've won our games. Obviously, it's still very early, so not getting too excited. But no, it has been good last few weeks.
Yeah, it's not a Liverpool podcast, don't worry. But Brighton wise, I mean, it's on the back of 2 Liverpool games and a City game. And actually, after them couple of Liverpool games, it's quite a nice place to be actually during the international break to look back on the last 3 games. It's probably done me a favour in not just doing them back to back to back. But I was a little bit sort of not worried, but you lose 2 games against the same team, home and away, and then you sort of think, okay, you've got City next. It could go one way or the other. And sort of the way that City game started, actually, they looked very, very good in the first half an hour. And this is really what I wanted to talk to you about, was how Fabian Hürzeler, he's almost played 3 games against 2 of the best teams in the world, and almost it's been a different Brighton in every single game. He's not played the same again. And it's becoming a bit of a theme, isn't it, with Hürzeler? Yeah. He's really establishing himself as one that can change it.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it's probably to do with a little bit of personnel. Obviously, the team changed with each game. So I think a little bit to do with personnel. Opposition as well. Like, I think the Liverpool games, the first one looked very different to the second game. And obviously Man City are a very different side to Liverpool. I think play very different styles. So, yeah, I think he is sort of showing that he's changing style based on opposition. It's not just sort of like, I think with sort of Brighton of old would be, right, this is how we play and sort of that's it. Whereas I think it's sort of showing that he likes to change it up based on opposition, which I quite like personally. It's quite refreshing to sort of see. I think where sort of modern football going is you have your system and your style and you stick to it. But I think with him, he's sort of adapting with each team, which I quite like the look of, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because probably the one thing that everyone was really worried about, we spoke about it, was the high line originally, and then it was the sort of low block. Do you remember? And then now it's sort of a bit of a hybrid of both. It's actually the Hürzeler that we were promised before he came, and that's the zero midfield. I don't know how much attention you paid to that second half when Carlos Baleba came on, but it was like a completely different game. And it's not the first time this has happened where Hürzeler just completely empties the midfield. And I think it was James Alcott did a video on it on the Premier League YouTube channel. And it's really interesting to me because I think, okay, this is the Hürzeler we've been sort of told is the one. This is what he can do. He likes to change things. He doesn't like to be the same. And it's not just him that says it, it's the players as well. It's a lot of people around the club like to sort of talk about how Hürzeler's, he's different. He's learning on the job. He's probably, he's young, and it's taken him a little bit of getting used to, but he's still been getting the results. What do you sort of think of that as an outsider looking into it? I know you're a bit more than an outsider, but when you look at sort of someone that's learning on the job, so to speak, but still getting the results at his age, I know people go on about it so much. It's quite impressive, but also very reassuring, sort of for his even midterm future. Yeah, no,
I think it's one of them. I saw an interview with him a couple of weeks back. I don't know if you've seen the Sky Sports one where they're playing paddle. Jeremy Redknapp.
We need to play that, actually.
Yeah, and Bobby Zamora. And he made a really good comment of like, he's young and everyone talks about his age, but he's not actually a young coach. I think he started coaching at, was it 23?
Yeah, 23. Same age as me.
Like, so he's been coaching for a long time. Yeah, obviously he is young. It's obvious, but he's not a young coach. So yes, there's learning to do from obviously being a Premier League manager and probably just managing and all. You're coming up against managers that might have been managing for 20 or 30 years. So yeah, he's still new to it, but he's not a young coach. It's not fresh for him. He has all these ideas. He has his way of playing. I think he's more just learning maybe to the Premier League and that sort of environment, I think. And like I say, he's surrounded himself with people that have experience, and he's surrounded by people at the club as well that have lots of experience. Obviously, now he's bringing in the assistant as well, who he has loads and loads of experience. So I think in all, he's doing really well. And like I say, he's getting results quickly. I think even if he wasn't necessarily getting results, I think Brighton obviously still give him time. I think the fans will give him time. But for him, pretty much a perfect start, I think, if you ask me.
It's not far off. I mean, probably people will look back on it and wanted a result in probably one of the Liverpool games, is what you'd say.
Yeah.
But then I think that's a really harsh one with how hard a slot started.
Exactly. I think like Liverpool nearly picked up maximum points, while most of their games, obviously Nottingham Forest game, Arsenal game, I wouldn't say drop points, I'd probably say it's an equal result. So yeah, when you're coming up against a Liverpool side that have been relentless from the start of the season, you can't really look back at them games and be like, oh, yes, it would have been nice probably for you guys to win it. For my side, it wasn't. It was perfect for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in all, it's been a really good start.
Yeah, I think it's strange because I feel like we've almost changed so much in the beginning of the season. We're only November, sort of midway through November. There's such a long way of the season to go. Probably by January, February time, the starting 11 is going to look different to what it does now. You've got players to come in January, of course, as it happens, and people will leave. But I think it's the way we've sort of gone about these games, and it's not just the sort of last three. You know, I think in the last sort of 5, maybe 6. I think it was the Forest game that I could probably go furthest back to in terms of probably I'd scrap out Chelsea out of the equation because it was just the one where I was a bit annoyed about it. But I think the Forest and the Wolves game were the ones that were a little bit like, okay, they were sort of similar. We sort of, maybe didn't get the result over the line. We contradicted that completely when we went to Newcastle, and then we got the result over the line that we probably didn't deserve. And it was really quite, it's different for me because I'm so used to saying one way, and this is Brighton. I think with Potter and De Zerbi, it was always focused on build-up. And the difference is now it's so much more focused on just taking your chances when you get them and overloading them completely. And this is actually quite a nice point, is that City goal, Matt O'Reilly's goal. And for one, I'm so happy for Matt O'Reilly he's had such a horrible sort of start to his Brighton career. He's never been injured before this. I did a little bit of research on O'Reilly, and I think he left Fulham on a free and was literally a free agent for 6 months. Yeah. He didn't have a club for 6 months. That was only in 2021, which is outrageous. Yeah. And then he went to MK Dons and sort of picked his career up again. And I just find that in itself quite mad that he's gone from that to being a Celtic sort of superstar. And now he's he's instantly announced himself on the Premier League stage. But his dynamic with Baleba, it's given Hürzeler such a different outlook in terms of what he could do with that overload.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's really good to see, and it shows he can sort of deal with like adversity and all that sort of stuff. He deals with setbacks and with things really well. Like you say,
way
being out of a
schedule as well.
Yeah, instead of like being out of club, he just shows he just wants to keep pushing and getting better. And like you say, to then come back from that injury as soon as he did, and then to perform well. Like you come back from an injury, normally you're not up to full sharpness for a while, but yeah, he's just come in and he performed really well, and then getting that goal, only the confidence he would have got after that would be incredible.
The noise in the Amex as well.
Oh, no, it was excellent. It's the way it's the winning goal. Yeah. It's against the champions. It's late on in the game. It's what you dream about, and you probably couldn't have had a better comeback really. And obviously, like I say, his first game for Brighton, he's probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, like what on earth?"
And then slept since.
Yeah, and then for that to happen, it's just amazing to see.
Yeah,
because he seems like a really nice guy as well, and I think that's the other thing. He seems like a really lovely guy, and yeah, he just shows he just wants to keep getting better and keep pushing.
From a player's perspective, I mean, that's sort of that emotion that. It's been such a struggle for him. You could see it with all of the staff, all of the players. I think Ferdy Kadioglu gave him the biggest hug at the end of the game because Ferdy's out as well at the moment, isn't he? And it was just such a you could tell that he is genuinely really, really liked at the club. Yeah. And how does that feel? Obviously, it's an amazing moment for the player, but to almost just brush out all of that bad sort of negative vibes for the last 2.5 months. It's completely cleared his head now going into sort of the back end of this year.
Yeah, definitely, and it's one of them. Football has so many lows and has so many highs. So I think for him, obviously having that low to then having that high, it's going to be right. What does it now look like for him to maintain it? Obviously, hopefully he can start and keep getting in the side and keep performing well. But then he might have games where he doesn't play well. So yeah, I think from like a player's perspective, it's like you say, don't get too low with the lows and don't get too high with the highs. Obviously, everyone's probably heard that saying. Yeah. But with football, because once the game's over, that's it. It's gone. It's now on to the next one. So it's the only real time you get to look back at that is probably at the end of the season. So I think for him, obviously, yeah, it's a fantastic moment. He would have celebrated with his family and he would have had a great buzz out of it. But then he goes back on Monday morning and it's right, what's the next game? So it's such a, you don't have a lot of time to sort of celebrate or enjoy the moment. You do it at the time, but then once that's in, it's done. It's the focus for the next game. So it can happen so quickly and things can change so quickly. It's just it's frightening sometimes.
Well, it's funny you say that 'cause it's been a couple of weeks, as we said.
Yeah.
And I think the last time we spoke to each other was after you conceded quite a quick goal. And I think it was a bit of a bad one on the back of it. Was it Horsham? I think I can't remember the game now.
Yeah, we conceded early against Horsham.
Yeah.
And then we were sort of on a bad run of form. We didn't score an open play since September.
Yeah.
And then we had a game Tuesday night and then we scored within the first 30 seconds. So it just shows like the flip of it, and then we ended up winning 4-1.
But on that 4-1, Toby, I'm going to mention it because you have to see the clip. I'm going to roll that clip right now.
Puemo back in defence as well. Of course, there's a red card to his name this season. So does Paris Muirhead. What a ball by Toby Bull. Gianluca Botti. Surely 1-0. An early goal, and it's Davidson making his first goal for the Rugs, then making it 1-0 in 30 seconds. Making his league debut. And what an impact that was. Props go to Toby Bull as well with a fine pass.
That is such a good ball, mate. How did you do that?
Yeah, it was just
what
one of them.
Came over you?
Yeah, I just saw the run and I just played it. And then behind, and then we go and score. And obviously, I played sort of them passes throughout the season, and we haven't scored from it.
Yeah.
But then the flip side, people would have seen the highlights. I made a mistake going for their first goal, which was literally 10 minutes later. So I've had a massive high within the first 30 seconds of a game of football. Absolutely buzzing. It's a key pass from myself. Obviously, if I don't make that pass, we don't score. So for me, it's such a key moment. And then 10 minutes later, I go and make a mistake leading to a goal.
Yeah.
Then it shows that high and then the low, and then you just have to flip. And then I made some key saves second half, and then we end up winning the game. So it sort of just shows what happens in football. Is literally once it's happened, it's gone, and you don't really have time to sort of think about it. Obviously after, but then my focus now is going into our game on Saturday. So it'll be the same for Matt O'Reilly. Like when he would have had that low of the injury, it's slightly different with an injury. You then don't focus on the next game. You sort of just focus on getting back. But then when he's played in that game and he scored that goal and he's having that high, he now has to go, right, put that to the side, that's been and gone. And then he has to now go into the next game. And like you say, anything can happen in the next game. Hopefully he performs well. But if he doesn't, you have to brush that to the side and keep going.
Yeah. And on players that have sort of had to get themselves back into the side, that couple of games against Liverpool was 2 games where Carlos Baleba didn't start the game. Came on and looked okay. Actually, no, he didn't come on at Anfield. I'm wrong in saying that. He came on against Manchester City and completely changed the game.
Oh, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Like his performance was incredible. Like his clips and just the way he bossed that midfield when he came on.
He just completely changed it. And it's, is Carlos Baleba the next £100 million signing for Brighton? Or is it just one where actually now we start to look at Brighton players and say the best place for you to be is right here?
It's so difficult because whenever you're competing against the big sides and always money is going to come into it, you're not going to be able to compete financially. But it's really tough as well because if you haven't offers from big clubs that are maybe in the Champions League and stuff, but nothing stops Brighton from doing that. So if Brighton start getting into these European competitions like consistently, then these players will just happily stay. It's difficult. It's going to always be hard to compete financially. That's always a given. But some players, I'm surprised that some players aren't actually too fussed by that. The difference for them maybe earning £30,000-40,000 a week. They're offered £120,000 a week. Yeah, that's a big jump. But I don't know. Some players value where they are and their environment more than that. So yeah, it's always going to be difficult. He's still so young. Isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he's still ridiculously young. Is he 20?
Yeah, he's 20.
20, so-
And same, it's the same with Joao Pedro.
Yeah.
Is really what I'm getting at. We've got two players that are in themselves game changers, and there's not just game changers, but they're match winners as well. And Matt O'Reilly's actually proven as well alongside them two that he could potentially be the next sort of match winner and game changer as well, because he certainly did just that. But it's Joao Pedro every single time.
Yeah.
All the time. And if there's anyone to bring you out of the dump, if there's anyone that's going to bring the game completely by the scruff of the neck, it's always Joao Pedro. And when you're helped by sort of players like Carlos Baleba, who's so dynamic and so sort of physical as well. I don't know if you saw Matt O'Reilly talking about Carlos Baleba. But he sort of called him like a beast, didn't he? And he said that
because he's so direct.
Yeah.
He can drive with the ball, he can turn, he can get himself out of tight space, he can play, but he can do everything. And what I love about him is he seems like he always wants to go forward.
Yes.
Not just get the ball and pass backwards. He just seems like he just wants to go forward and break them lines and make things happen. And that could either be by pass, but also he's a phenomenal dribbler. And
he is.
His speed and his power is incredible.
The way he drives it it's really unbelievable, because nobody gets close to him, and he's much quicker than he looks as well. He's very, very fast. I think it's the first thing we noticed about him was how quick he was off the mark for such a sort of big guy. He's quite tall, he's quite broad, as you say, very physically dominant, but his sort of technical ability matches it as well, and the way he is sort of with his feet is really good. And dare I say, has he got a bigger potential? Has he got a higher ceiling than someone like Moises Caicedo?
Potentially, it's always difficult because you look at Moises when he was at Brighton and he was phenomenal as well.
The thing is, Moises didn't probably go forward as much.
No, but what he did do, he done the basics so well, and he broke up play really well. So I think they're slightly different players.
I'd say they're quite different, you know.
Yeah, they are slightly different players. Moises, obviously, he breaks up play very well, and he can linger pass, and he can score goals as well. He showed that the other day. But I just think Baleba on the ball is fantastic. And I think from a coach's perspective, some things that beat any tactics is when you can have a player that can beat one or two players. That just kills any tactic. When you have that asset in your team and you're struggling maybe to find the passes, and then you can give it to someone that can beat one or two players he sometimes just does it in one touch.
Yeah, he does.
Breaks a line and he's gone. And you're like, he's just taken two players out of the game.
Yeah.
Which, from a coach's perspective, to have someone like that it's a weapon.
It is. And the amount of weapons we've got is quite
the squad
crazy.
The squad depth you guys have is fantastic. I think maybe defensively you don't necessarily have that squad depth compared to the rest of the positions on the pitch. But I think with maybe a bit of recruitment in January and over the summer, I think obviously you probably are going to lose a couple of players like Joao Pedro. I'd be very, very surprised if a big club doesn't come in for it. And it's hard to sway players and sort of keep them at the club, because when say you have like a Man City or a Bayern Munich or a Real Madrid or just someone that comes in when you've got a club that size and you're playing in front of 80,000 maybe every week, then it's sometimes difficult to keep them. But you never know. But I'd be surprised if there's not a big bid coming in for him.
I saw Watford fans talking about Joao Pedro one before he came. Now Brighton fans now really get the memo on him. He is the sort of, as I said, he is the one to bring you out of that. And to have that gene as a player is not very common. So, I could see him at a mega club. And for that reason alone, because to be a big game player is something that's not, it's probably a 1 in 100. I don't know the statistics on that, but to get a player at the top level that's going to be able to be always the guy to bring you out of the bad positions, it's very unlikely. And, that's probably the one thing that Brighton didn't have for such a long time, was someone that can always be relied upon, even if they're maybe not having the best game themselves. They'll be there to score the goal. They'll be there to change the tide. They'll be there to put the ball through. And even, he can sort of play across everywhere, can't he? He can sort of go up front.
Across that front
wide,
line,
he even comes a bit deeper. And that's what I really like about him, is that he isn't just tied to one thing. He really is a difference maker. I could see Joao Pedro at, a big club.
Well, I'd take him at Liverpool. I generally would snap your hand off, because it looks like Mo Salah's probably leaving in the summer. Obviously, I know nothing's confirmed, but from all like the rumours and stuff, he's potentially off in the summer. And he's are Joao Pedro as such. Like you can always rely on him. Even when he's not having a bad game, he'll just pop up with a goal.
Yeah.
And like his finishing the other day.
Salah's a league above.
Of course he's a league above, but nothing stops Joao Pedro from doing that.
No, I meant a league above. I would say the gap between Salah and Hazard maybe is the same sort of gap as opposed to Salah and, say, a Bukayo Saka, for example. Because I think the next best alternative to Salah is probably Saka or someone at Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, Saka's unbelievable. But I think that the level of Salah, I still think he's underrated.
Oh, massive.
I still don't think people quite get how good Salah is,
I think he's definitely... It was definitely in the top 10, I think, all-time Premier League goal scorers.
100%.
And, to do that, like, consistently every season. And like I say, it's one of them, he doesn't necessarily sometimes play well.
Yeah. What's it been, 7 years in the league now?
He'll pop up with a goal. And he'll just do something. It's, for having him in our team is just, sometimes just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It can be, like, frustrating, like, oh, my gosh, how on earth has he done that? Or he's, like, skied it. But then all of a sudden he'll do something magical and you're like, wow. And to do it consistently as well, that's what's impressive. It's the consistency. Obviously, people have had their one season wonders and things like that, but he's done it year on year on year.
I remember when he got called a one season wonder not so long ago, but it was that cut in again, wasn't it, against Brighton, where he sort of comes on his left foot and it's an unbelievable strike. And this is one thing that I wanted to bring up actually, is Igor, because Igor, I think he's covered well, and I feel a bit sorry for him in the sense of when you haven't got Lewis Dunk in the side, he's not only sort of the best defender we've got, but he's also the captain. Don't get me wrong, JP's probably going to be overtaking his crown as the best defender at this club soon. But still, Lewis Dunk's been out for 3 or 4 weeks. He will be anyway. And Igor's had a really, really tough job. You've got to say, Igor, you've got to go and essentially replicate the captain of this club, who has been for the last 10 years, he's been one of the best players at this football club. And and I feel a bit bad for him because he's had a tough task. It's not easy to get on them with the new back four that you don't necessarily know. Ferdi Kadioglu came in, but then he went a bit sort of further up before his injury, and he did a good job of that at Liverpool. And then you've got sort of Veltman, you've got Purvis coming back and establishing themselves again after both of their injuries.
New midfielders as well.
New midfielders, absolutely. And, the whole team's pretty new. Van Hecke's only really establishing himself as a starter in the last sort of year or two. And Igor then, I feel a bit for him. I think in the second half against Manchester City, he was very, very good. I think he was very strong. And I think the trouble with Igor is he's had, 3 games against 2 of the best teams in the league, as we said before. And actually that game against Liverpool and the game against City, the first halves of both of those games and the second half of the Liverpool game, should I say, sorry, you could see where he kept sort of getting dragged, and you could see where sort of the quality was telling between someone like Haaland, between someone like Salah. He would be 10 yards away from maybe where he should be. And, that last-ditch challenge then becomes a lot harder to come back and do. And I felt a little bit for him because I sort of watching it, I thought Igor's out the way. He's not in the right place again. And then second half, he really, really made up for it. And you could see that he really either got told what to do by everyone around him, or he sort of thought, hang on a minute, this is where I should be. I think he's done a good job, all things considered, to be honest. And my point is, I feel a little bit sorry for him in the quality that he's come up against in the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
he has been coming up against probably some of the best players in the world, which doesn't make it easy. And obviously he probably hasn't been like a regular player for the last 6 months or so.
More than that, I'd say.
Well, even the last few months.
Yeah, last couple of years. Because you think about it, when he came in, he was a backup, really, wasn't he? He was waiting for his moment. He's been a backup this season, so that's what I'm saying. When the games he's come into have been really, really difficult. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting Igor to go and be as good as Lewis Dunk. I'm just sometimes you watch him and you think, oh mate,
it's, like I say, he's coming up against some world-class players. It is difficult because at the end of the day, people will be like, he's a Premier League defender, so he should be able to compete. But he has done well. Sometimes you can't help yourself when you come up against players that just have that moment of magic, and you put your hands up and go, I couldn't do anything there. I think overall he performed pretty well. It's just like you say,
he's brilliant.
It's just like you say, you're coming up against these players that have that moment of magic, and even from like a goalkeeper perspective, sometimes a player does something and you just go, fair enough. You literally just go, fair enough, and you go, right, well played, and you just stick your hands up and you go, couldn't do anything. It
was that ball across against Liverpool, City. It's the probably the one I'd like to bring up, because it's always easy to score an own goal when the ball comes across you really, really quickly. He sort of gets his right foot on it and it goes over the bar. And it was one where I thought, okay, people probably won't give him the credit he deserves for a block like that. But you think, very good, and hopefully that's one that he'll think, I think he really established himself again. He thought, okay, right, I can't stop him going in.
Yeah. When you have them moments like that in a game where it's like a really important impact, the confidence it gives you is incredible. And like I say, it then makes you go, hold on a minute, I am good, I can do this, and I can compete. So that would have done him the world of good. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And alongside Purvis, I think both of them have their moments at times, but I do love both of them.
But they're always coming up against tend to be the best players on the pitch. I think it might be with Jack actually, done something with Sky.
White said it, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that was it. He was like, you're always coming up against the best players. From like a fullback, and sort of Igor sometimes gets with the way the sort of the backline works, he sometimes has to drift out wide and defend out wide. You tend to be coming up against the best 1v1 players in the world, and you're like, actually, hold on a minute,
you got a point.
1v1 defending against some of the best dribblers in the world and he's a centre back, mind you, as well.
Yeah.
So the last place centre backs want to be is out wide. They don't want to be defending out wide. Get isolated out there, and the pace as well. Some of these possess is frightening.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to defend against he's probably not one of the best players in the world, but Traore is a prime example.
Yeah.
If you have him 1v1, he absolutely smoked Carl Walker a few weeks back.
If he's done, he's gone.
He's gone, and that's when you go, what do you expect me to do? You literally put your hands up and go, what on earth do you expect me to do?
It's funny, isn't it? The pace difference of some players.
Yeah.
It looks like they're being really slow, or they're maybe not looking that good, but it is quite as simple as soon as you put your foot in and you miss it.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's gone, because you have to change direction.
You're not going to catch him up.
No, you have to change direction.
Mitoma did it to Walker a lot, and I really, really enjoyed to watch it, especially Walker of all people. I don't like him at all. But it was quite funny to, Mitoma, I think he still gets a hard time, to be honest. I still don't think people get it. I have to say it more often than not. Most exciting winger in the league. When I say it, I mean it. I mean what I say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I see Mitoma every single time, he doesn't come up with the goals and assists maybe that he could.
Yeah.
His shooting ability is not as good as maybe his dribbling ability at all. But again, he's doing the best right back, of the last 5 years.
He
people
possesses
like to call
that
him.
skill that I was talking about. Is sometimes you can put your tactics out your window when you have players like that, where you just give him the ball. He'll beat 1 or 2, even not 3 players. It's just like you say, it's having that maybe end product, which you might like if he could finish. Well, he can finish, but if he added lots of goals to his game.
If he added goals to his game, he would be one of the best. I think he would be one of the best. Because
he's easily one of the best dribblers in the league.
Yeah.
If not the world. Like you see him in 1v1, or even when he gets overloaded 2v1 and he still finds his way through. Yeah, his dribbling ability is phenomenal.
I still think we take it for granted.
Yeah,
and that's why I keep saying it. Because that ball from JP Van Hicker across to Mitoma, the overload that that's creating is unbelievable. And when Minte comes back as well, Gruder gets himself into the side. It's going to be really scary because you're not going to know which way to go.
True.
But it's that sort of dominance. We've got him in the sort of centre of the pitch. We've got Welbeck. We now got Pedro back. We've got Jorginho in there as well. Matt O'Reilly's now in the side. There's a ridiculous amount in midfield, and you've got a ridiculous amount out wide. Mitoma still does it every single time, and it's an absolute pleasure to watch, and a credit to him.
Yeah.
And his decision making to kill sort of games off, and he was trying to do it at Anfield. It's not to his discredit where it didn't work, but it's where he knows where to bring the ball out. He sort of collects it sort of 30 yards, 20 yards into his own half, and he just runs, and he knows exactly where to go. He's going to run. He's going to get as far up the pitch as he physically can, hold it, wait for Purvis, and it's the best move he can do. And it's just a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of sort of know-how on what to do in them moments. And he did it against City really well. He did it against Liverpool really well. It was just for, that 2 minutes where we did get beaten up, to be honest. But again, it's all experience. I think that we are learning. And finally, sort of on this show, I wanted to give the credit to Fabian Hürzeler.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because, one, I feel like I've been quite critical, and I'm man enough to come on a podcast and talk about him in exactly the same way as I would if I think we've had a bad game. And also on that, I think people were saying to me after the game, they said, Ryan, what about the tactical thing that you said about Fabian Hürzeler in the week? And the only reason I couldn't respond to them was because I physically wasn't on camera.
Yeah.
I think tactically in the last 2 games we've seen a lot from Fabian Hürzeler to be a really, really happy about. I think that the way the timing of his substitutions is really key. I think the way he's been changing the team has been really, really good. And more often than not, we are getting the results that we want, and if not, we're within touch and distance of that result. I think the 2-1 against Liverpool, I came out of that ground at Anfield quite happy. I was quite proud of the performance. I said credit to Fabian. I thought the first half we were brilliant. Just for the 2 or 3 minutes where we did just get roasted in that unbelievable atmosphere that was. Yeah. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, and that's what it is. And against City, we come up and pretty much followed on exactly how I'd have wanted to. There were still question marks over the first half. Yeah. Okay, I still think in the first half an hour we weren't there, and maybe that's something that we'll see. But again, that's Manchester City. It's Pep Guardiola. It's the best players in the league. Yeah. So I can let it slide a little bit more. I'm really happy with sort of how we're looking, and I think if we can continue sort of this learning path, and this has really been the theme of the thing, of him learning and being the person that's learning on the job, I think he's really taking in his stride now and adapting as well.
Yeah, no, 100%, and like I say, a lot of credit deserves to go to him, and a lot of credit deserves to go to all the players as well. I think he has that. No, he has that something with a young manager where he's not afraid to maybe try new things, or he's not afraid to play young players. He's not afraid to maybe get things wrong. But I don't think he has got many things wrong. I think most of the things he's done has been right, and it's shown with the results, it's shown the performances, and he does things really well. And they say he's not afraid to also change things at half time. I think like football is 2 minutes, and that's why you have your break at half time. Because if you need to change things, sort of that's when you do it. Ideally, you want to change it when you've worked out maybe what the problem is or what the system is.
Graham's biggest problem here was just not changing it at half time when we could see I remember the game against Wolves in lockdown. Dan Burn was having an absolute nightmare, but he stayed on the bench second half, and you just think it's not any discredit to Dan Burn. He's not playing in the position he wants to be in. He's at left back, and he was just getting roasted. It was a Dalma Traore, funnily enough, for all people. And I was just watching it thinking, oh my God, it's every single time.
But I think this is maybe where Hurts has the beauty of you've got a bit more squad depth now. I think you maybe look back a few years ago and you might have looked to the bench and be like, hold on here, who can I bring on and who can I trust? Whereas I think Hurtzer can trust all of his players, maybe because he doesn't know them as well, or like they're all very new. So he has to give everyone their chance. I think it's one of them. You've got a lot more squad depth, and full credit goes to him because he gives them the confidence to go on and perform really well. I think that's probably maybe the slight difference of you've got a bit more squad depth now, so you can change things. But even sometimes you don't have the squad depth, just changing personnel or changing shape, changing system. Like our game on Tuesday night, first half we were completely different to second half, and sometimes that can be. We were playing the ball a lot, we were tiring them out, and the opposition tire. So sometimes you do have to wait till like 70 minutes before what you're doing gets the success. We like to play the ball around quite a lot, so obviously the opposition are going to be moving. And for 60 or so minutes, our opposition were fantastic. They defended superbly well, they pressed really well. We gave the ball away a lot. And then second half, I think, we were better, but also at the same time, the opposition tend to tire. So sometimes changing things, some managers actually go, I don't want to change it because I know at maybe 60 minutes it will start working. Right. But then there's times where you go, actually, this isn't working at all today. And we have to change it. It's all based on style and it's all based on what managers want. But Hürzeler, for me, he shows he's not afraid to change it at all and change personnel. Yeah.
Personnel-wise, I think it's the best. I said it in the summer, the best quality squad I've seen.
100%. The squad's fantastic. I think maybe the squad depth you might want is defensively but sometimes you can't help injuries. Like if you had Lewis Duncan Van Heck back there, you'd probably be like, you're laughing. Got 2 quality centre halves, your fullbacks are good. So maybe January you might look to bring in one more just to add a bit more depth.
I saw rumours of Eric Dyer. I was thinking
I've seen that
on a free or something. But again, I wouldn't complain. I'm not going to speculate about players
playing the Champions League and stuff like that. But you don't know. That's all depend on what the club want. They have to suit the club's style, and it's the same whenever the club brings in a manager. It has to suit their style, and sometimes it's more about personality as well. And ambitions.
I do agree with you. And it's interesting, actually, what you say about sort of styles-wise and times. But I think we're getting there. I think there's definitely a lot of reason to be sort of happy about it. And I think the way that we win in different ways is probably the scariest thing for opposition looking at us, and probably the thing I like the most. We've proven now we can get results over the line in different ways. And I think that if you can do that, and especially just on Hürzeler's point of view, I think it's an absolute accolade, I think, on his point of view. But
yeah, it's exciting because you have your fundamentals, and you have the stuff that you do well, and you have the certain things that are your non-negotiables playing under Hürzeler. But then also what he adds is that little bit of difference. So it's not just there's one way. Yes, you have your fundamentals and your non-negotiables, but there's also things that change it up. And I think a lot of that is to do with him.
Yeah.
And the players clearly seem to be on board with that, and they buy into that really well, because sometimes you can change things, and for players it's like, oh my God, what on earth do I do? This is so different. But I think it just shows that it's not just, oh, I've had this idea mid-game, let's do it. I think a lot of it is planned, and which just shows how much of a brilliant coach he is, and the staff he has as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Toby been top.
Brilliant.
If you made it this far, comment below who your player of the season so far is, because I was thinking about it on Twitter earlier, and I saw people saying you can't discredit Danny. Yeah, of course. Wells has to be in there, but then Van Hecker for me, and also Carlos Baleba. We've been treated to some good performers this year, so I couldn't decide between the three of them. Who would you say, if anyone?
Oh, mate, you put me on the spot here. I think all your players have been really, really good. I think it's difficult to put it on one. I think Danny Welbeck's, I don't know, just because them key moments and the goals and his consistency as well. So he's probably just the edge in it, maybe for me. But it's really tough. You've got so many good players, Even Verbruggen's been really good as well.
Yeah, he's been getting really good
from a goalkeeper point of view.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you put me on the spot here. They've all played well.
Made some big saves, Bart, first half.
Yeah. And like I say, I think that's coming off maybe the back of that like Liverpool game and Aston Villa game.
Yeah,
Newcastle game,
really
and that Newcastle game, and he's looking solid.
Yeah,
he's looking really solid, which is good.
Definitely. Toby, absolute pleasure. Make sure you follow him on everything. I'll put some stuff in the description, of course. And the same for the Caxton Arms here in Brighton. I think that's just about everything. We'll see you after the international break. I don't think we missed anything, have we? Yeah, I know. We're still here, aren't we? But, I don't think there's one for a while after this, is there? I think this is it for a while. Yeah. So, you'll see us a lot more regularly, hopefully, anyway. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Keep streaming on Spotify. We'll be on more streaming platforms now, so I'll let you know when all that's out. But we'll see you soon. Make sure you follow. We'll see you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.